Hi, this is Bob Morrell. I work for Reality Training, and Thomas Cook was one of our clients. And this is a webinar for current Thomas Cook staff who have suddenly found themselves looking for work. And it's a summary of tips and ideas for different types of staff from different parts of the business that I hope will be of use to you in the coming weeks and months. So it's titled You and What's Next, Tips, Ideas and Opportunities. For those of you that may not have been trained by Reality Training developed and created the Beach model, which was trained out a few years ago across Thomas Cook. Also, I believe in your contact centres as well. And we've known a lot of people in the business over a number of years. So we're extremely sorry as to what's happened to you in the last few days. And we hope that some of the ideas that we come up with here will be of use to you as you go forward after this event. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at people in customer service, whether that be in retail or in the contact centres. And what is it that's going to help you get your next position? Then we're going to look at team and shop managers. How can you get across to potential employers your strengths and what's going to help you secure that next role? Cabin crew and reps, what are the key things that people are looking for in that perspective? You've been traveling around the world and you've been representing your brand in different parts of the world. What are you going to do and what is going to help you get the next thing that you need? And lastly, we've got senior managers who are in charge of areas of business or bits of the business. And we're going to think about the kind of key things that they need to think about. Now, as we go through this, I'm going to spend a few minutes on each one. Some of the things and some of the other areas may be of use to you, may be relevant to you. So feel free to have a look at that. But if you want to speed up or go to different elements of this webinar, you can do so on the recording arrow at the bottom. So that's an option for you to use. You don't have to sit through the whole thing. So let's start off with customer service. So what have you got? Well, first of all, you've got a sales model that you've been trained in. And Reality Training have been training different people in sales models for 17 years now. And these sales models are effective. And a major portion of the travel industry use our sales models. Thank you very much. Very nice of you to use them. And part of the reason for that is the way that we train it. As you may remember, we train in sort of large groups and make it a bit of a show. But also it's because those different elements of the model are really important. The way that you engage with the customer, ask them great questions, put together brilliant personalized recommendations, confirm that booking, and then of course hold on to that customer through some form of retention discussion. So if you think about how you sell, those skills are transferable to other travel businesses. And you've got to think about where the value is in that. You've been trained in how to sell effectively. What kind of a seller are you? How is it you utilize those different skills to sell great bookings to customers? And I think that's the kind of thing that as another travel company, I'd love to hear about. Not the model, or not what you call it. It's how you do it. How do you engage with customers? What kind of questions do you ask? How are you able to take that information and create a brilliant value-added proposition that brings it to life? And then how are you able to negotiate a brilliant outcome? I think that's a really important set of skills that you must explain to other people that you have. Now then within that, there's things like your conversion rate. So what is your conversion rate? Do you convert 5 in 10, 6 in 10, 7 in 10? You know, what is the percentage of inquiries that you take that you then convert? Because if I'm thinking of employing you, okay, 7 out of 10, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, that's a great average. Are you good at selling extras? Are you good at selling insurance? Are you good at selling other elements that go along with the holiday? What percentage of your current customer base were repeat customers? They came to you every year. That's really important because that shows you're brilliant at creating relationships with people, and that builds a business. And lastly, follow-up. How tenacious are you at following up inquiries to get a booking from people? Because that's a really important element of travel. And if you're good at that, that means you're going to be chasing down business. And as a potential employer, I'm going to want to hear about that. So the top 3 things that people are looking for are these. They're looking for enthusiasm and proactivity. So enthusiasm is one thing. Yeah, I'm dead keen. But to actually demonstrate that, how proactive you are shows how enthusiastic you are. You know, if you go out of your way to help people, to make sure they're okay, as I'm sure you've been doing in recent days, then that is incredibly attractive to an employer, that you're there to really connect with customers. So that's really important, how you get across your enthusiasm, your proactivity. Can you think of an example that demonstrates how proactive and enthusiastic you can be? Flexible and adaptable. This is the world we live in. And you're in an industry of home workers, of online travel agents, contact centers, of retailers, obviously, independents. That calls for a degree of flexibility and adaptability. It also requires for a degree of flexibility in terms of, okay, I've been selling this type of trip for years. I'm now going to switch to selling this type of trip for years. Am I able to do that easily? What do I need to do to help me adapt to that? That understanding of what it is you need to make that switch is also very attractive. And lastly, and it's the most difficult one to actually create, is likability. And it always reminds me of work we've done in the past where we work with managers and they say, oh, you know, I'm really struggling with my team. And we look at them and go, well, it's probably because you're not very likable. We don't say that, but you know what I mean. Likability is entirely subjective, but you're much more likely to be employed if you're likable, because there might be some brilliantly qualified people, but if I don't feel I'm just going to get on with them, then that's a big thing, a really big thing. So if you can demonstrate how easy it is, how easy you are in terms of getting on with someone, that's also a great thing to utilize. So those are top three things I would definitely think about creating examples of. Now, team and shop managers. Well, what have you got? You're managers and you're also coaches, because you're there managing a team of people and you're also coaching those people to improve their performance constantly. And if you have a team in a contact center, then you're there monitoring their performance, helping them get better. If you've got a team in a shop, you're also doing the same thing, just in a slightly different scenario. So as a manager, and I'm thinking of employing you, I want to hear about the type of people you managed and the relationship that you have with them. That's really important. The turnover that you had in your team or in your shop is really important too, because that's kind of evidence of how good you are at retaining good people. And sometimes the turnover is not within your control, but you need to understand the reasons behind a slightly higher turnover, so that because if I'm potentially going to employ you as a manager, I want to know how you're involved in the creation or the limitation of that turnover. Then we've got leadership. Some people don't understand the difference between leading a team and managing a team. Managing is much more operational. Leading is inspiring people to do better. And if I'm thinking of employing you, give me some examples of how you've done that. And that leads us on to motivation. There are good times and bad times in all businesses. What are you good at in terms of motivating your people? Because that's going to be a crucial part of your next role, wherever you end up. So the top three things people want from managers are to understand leadership. I think that's really important. And I think more than ever these days, leading from the front is absolutely key. That's a really important element of a decent manager. Understand how to motivate people, not just say, yes, I'm good at motivating people. What do you do that helps your people to remain motivated? And lastly, effort and results. There are lots of people who put in lots of effort, but for some reason, they're just not as successful as others. And some of those others don't tend to put much effort in at all, but they tend to get the results. And I think if you understand that it's important to reward effort as well as results, that is really important, because some people are unlucky. Some people put in lots and lots of effort, but for some reason just don't have the ability to translate that into results. But that doesn't mean that effort should go unrewarded. That's really key. So cabin crew and reps, really difficult, because on the day things happen, you're on the front line, you're speaking to people, and that's incredibly hard. So what you do have is experience and knowledge. If you're cabin crew, you've got great experience of different types of flight all over the world to different destinations, and you know how to help people have a comfortable flight and how to help them cope with those different scenarios. And also, if you are a rep, you've got knowledge about a destination, places to visit, places to go to, doctors, practical concerns. You have so much knowledge about destinations that is valuable. It has a value. As well as that, I want to know, what are you good at selling? So if you're a cabin crew, are you good at selling food and drinks and perfume and drinks? And I don't know if you still sell them, fags and that sort of thing. Are you good at selling that kind of thing to people? Are you likable? It's probably the most important thing. Exactly the same as with the customer service as well. Are you a likable person? And do you have a sense of humour? And I think that cabin crew and reps, in my experience, that is the most important thing, because you are sometimes dealing, as we know, with what you might term the more trickier elements of society from time to time. And I think if you haven't got a sense of humour, it's not so easy. So I think the top three things that people want from reps and crew is resilience. These aren't the easiest of jobs, and that resilience, how can you show me that you are resilient, is really important. Personality, but that always comes across. As soon as you meet one of you, then we know that you have a personality. But what's important about your personality that makes you likable and that delivers a great service to your customers? And lastly, how efficient are you? Some people are incredibly efficient and get things done, and some people are a little bit less efficient. So I want to hear examples of how you are brilliant at being efficient, as well as those other things. Creates a picture of someone who's very employable. Now, senior managers. So you may have been around for a while, and you may have a large team of people that you work with. You may have 50, 60, 100, 200, who knows, people that you are managing. So, as well as all the things we've talked about so far, experience, knowledge, and all that kind of thing, more than anything here, when you're a senior manager at this sort of level, it is about leadership. It's about leading these large groups of people. And I think crucially, being able to implement stuff. That is so important. You can't just sit and manage and hope it goes okay. It's about implementing projects and delivering them. So if I'm thinking of employing you as a senior manager, I want to know about the implementation and delivery of projects, and of course their effect and their success. That is really, really key. If you can show me you can do that, okay, that's interesting. Do you understand growth and profitability? Is that one of your drivers? Some people just don't get it, and that is absolutely key for a senior manager. Where's the growth? Where's the profitability? Change programs are a constant thing. We've been doing this for 17, 18 years, and the requirement for different types of change program is constant, because people are always looking for different types of change. And I think if you're the kind of person that can land those change programs really well so that they have a positive effect on the business, that's really interesting. And I think another key thing for senior managers is this: ask for forgiveness, not necessarily always asking for permission. Some people say it's slightly risky, but I think these days in the corporate world, we want doers, people who get on with things and do it because they believe it's the right thing to do, and then say, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have gone quite as far as that, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and these are the reasons why. And that is about integrity, doing the right thing. If you ask for permission, everyone says no, so don't worry about it. If you think this is right and you think it's the best thing to do, then go for it and ask for forgiveness. And the most effective senior managers that we've worked with in recent years have all been in that category. So the top three things people want from senior managers are leading from the front, not from the back. Now that's really important. Somebody who mucks in with everybody else, that's a great senior manager. Proactively managing time. There are lots of managers who spend a lot of time on their phones having endless conference calls, most of which they are not participating in. Fact. If you've got an idea about how to limit the amount of time you do that kind of thing, that's interesting, because I think we want proactive people being managed by proactive managers who have senior managers proactively encouraging them and leading from the front. Then you've got a great business. If you are sitting at the back and hoping it's all going to go and seeing how things turn out, less effective. And also this idea that, change, be change positive. Don't just think, oh, here we go, more change, got nothing to change. No, change is the constant thing that as a senior manager you are going to be managing. That's an absolute fact. So you may as well just get used to that idea and go for it and sit down in front of a future employer and go, look, these are the things that I love bringing in to the organisation. These are things I love working with. This is the difference I think it's going to make. And this is how much I enjoy seeing that positive change. That's very appealing too. Now, if you are a senior manager, you could do a lot worse than use an executive coach. We have 3 qualified executive coaches here at Reality Training who are more than happy to give you some assistance in this, because an executive coach will help you clarify how you're feeling and also about what your strengths are, and that will help you develop far more effectively. Now, another tip, returning to the positive past. We can talk about our careers in so many different ways, and if you go for an interview, you'll certainly be doing that. Returning to the positive past is really important. I remember a time when, and we did this, and we did this, and we did this, and the result was fantastic, and it was really good. What were you doing then that made it so good? Because if you tell me about that, I want you now to bring that and do it now, and do it for us now. So returning to the positive past is really motivational. And it's the positive past. Don't go back to times when really bad and you went through a tough period and it was all really, really difficult, because you could spiral and that doesn't get you anywhere. Returning to the positive past is absolutely crucial. Now, the next thing is this. It's really easy, but it's so important. Change your buts to ands. Change your buts to ands. So I really, really enjoyed my last job, but if I had it would have been much better. So the moment you say but, the whole thing is hell. Okay? So I really enjoyed my last job, but if only I'd had it would have been better. I really enjoyed my last job, and if I just had it would have been absolutely amazing. Upward inflection. Okay? So it's an addition to positivity, whereas but, everything's negative. Everything's negative. Now, if you could just remove the word but from your vocabulary, especially in an interview. So I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and I've done that, and done that, and done that. Okay, good. That sounds great. It's a tiny thing to change, but it makes a massive difference. Now let's just deal with this last thing, stinking thinking. And those of you that did manager training with us will remember this, and it's really important. This could be others, and this could be your stinking thinking. This is your default negative mode. And we all have them, and I'm happy to share mine with you. So some people are defeatists. I'm never going to do it. Never going to do it. No, never going to be able to do it. It's never going to work for me. Okay. Some people, cynics. Going to do that? Easy to be cynical in a cynical world. Wishful. Oh, I'd love to be able to do that. Yeah. If only I could, Self-pity merchant. Oh, God. It's tough. Sometimes we just need to be less self-pitying. Anxiety stress bucket. Oh, God. Worrying about everything. Well, you can't worry about everything. You can only worry about one thing at a time. You can certainly only solve one thing at a time. Jealous type. Yes, but it was all right for him. He sat near the door. Hear a lot of that in travel. No point being jealous. And procrastinators. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get round to it. I'm just going to get things ready. But before that, I'm just going to spend some time thinking about it. Now, you will hopefully recognize yourself here. We all have a default negative mode, the way that we go. And when we feel a bit negative. I think it's important to know what that is. It's important to know what that is, to understand it. Because in an interview, those are the pressure points that people are going to be looking for. But if you understand it, you can preempt it. So you can say, well, because they ask you terrible questions like, what's your worst quality and all that sort of stuff. And what's the one thing you change about yourself? Well, you could say, um, I do sometimes get a little bit anxious. I have a bit of anxiety, and that makes me feel a bit stressed. And what I've learned to do over the years is to structure my time much more effectively so that I have less crises to manage, and that relieves my anxiety. But I'm prone to that, if you like. Now, that's really interesting. That's my issue. This is how I'm dealing with it. I'm open and honest. That's a really positive thing to talk about when getting your next role. Now, lastly, what not to say in an interview. 3 things. I lost a job many years ago I loved. I was in a brilliant team in an innovative company. It was an amazing job. It's the best job I'd had in my life up to that point, and the plug was pulled. And I went for an interview for an equally brilliant job, but I was so wrapped up in that previous one that I almost thought I was still doing it. And I sat in that interview, not saying it, but just feeling this isn't as good as my last job. This isn't as good as what I was doing before. This isn't as good. This isn't going to be as good. What I was doing was so much better. This doesn't have the same feel. Now, however true that may or may not have been, it was irrelevant. Okay. And so what's gone and past is past. Looking to the future is much more proactive, and constantly referring back in an emotional way to things you've done isn't necessarily going to help you. I do things my way. Yeah, I'm a manager and I do things my way, and it's very effective. Really. Your way may be great. Your way may be, I'm not sure you're the right person for us. It shows a degree of inflexibility. You may be really experienced and really effective, but I want somebody I can work with. And I don't need any training. We hear this a lot. I've been doing this 20 years. I don't need any training. Well, do you know what? I've been doing this for 17, 18 years. I still need training. I go on training courses. We all need training from time to time. We need to develop. We're all creatures of habit, and we need to think about what are those habits that are good and what are those habits I need to change. I think it's important that we accept that development should be a constant part of what we do. So, ladies and gents, thank you for your time. I sincerely hope that's useful to you. You can find out more about reality training at realitytraining.com. There is our Facebook page, which has loads of free stuff on there and articles and links. And on Reality Training Films on YouTube, there's lots of free tips and ideas on there as well. And we're constantly adding films to that channel as we go. So there's free resources for you to use there too. I wish you success in your move to a new role. And I'm sure that you'll be okay because you're good people. And I think that's really important. I wish you lots of luck, and I hope to see you on another training course at some stage in the future. But for now, all the best.